In this video, I'm going to give a quick explanation of what keyword instructions are, with some examples of instructions with different levels of keywords. So children need to gradually increase the amount of information they can take in at any time as they learn to respond to longer and more complex instructions. You can use the activities that we'll outline today easily within your everyday routine or when the child is playing with their toys. And as adults, we give these instructions without even thinking about them every day, but we do need to consider the language level that we use with the children. So first, I'm going to go through what we call the communication pyramid. So this model is used to demonstrate the skills that need to be in place for good communication to occur. So we think of these as like the building blocks for communication. So typically, children will develop the skill at the bottom first, so attention and listening, before the rest. So when the child is confident with their attention and listening, they will then be able to move on to the next building block, which is play and interaction. And then we move on to understanding. So that is the child's ability to listen to verbal instructions, to understand what the words mean, so being able to answer questions, follow instructions, things like that. And then we move on to expressive language. So this is the use of spoken language, and so how we put words into sentences, things like grammar, the grammatical structures, the structure of our sentences. And then the very top is speech. So that is the child's ability to pronounce certain sounds. And then we move on to following verbal instructions. So there's two important factors to consider, and these are the child's ability to understand word meaning, so their vocabulary. And this can depend on the child's exposure to that language, what their first language is, so just a thing to bear in mind. And instructions can be easier or harder depending on the type of vocabulary used and the level of familiarity. The other thing to consider is the child's ability to remember all the keywords in the instruction. So if they do have a difficulty with the memory, then the longer the instruction will be more difficult for them. Okay, so we move on to word meanings. So we've got naming words, such as nouns. We've got action words, describing words, and position words. So naming words are things like nouns, so someone's name, objects, ball, apple. And we've got action words, which are doing words, like verbs, so eat, sleep, jump. Describing words, so things like adjectives, so big, little, hot, and position words, so in, on, under, anything that shows the position of an object. So this is just a quick slide just to ensure that everyone has a shared understanding of the terminology. Okay, and now words are learned typically in the following order. So naming words at the bottom, so nouns, and then it goes on to verbs or action words, then on to describing words, and then grammatical words, so things like prepositions. And that's just something to bear in mind when you are giving verbal instructions to your child and to consider what level they are at. Okay, so keywords. Keywords are the words that carry the most meaning in an instruction. So before we move on to keyword instructions, we're just going to go through what skills that we need to understand what is being said. So we think of them in two areas. So we've got non-verbal and verbal. So non-verbal are things like facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, the gestures that you use with your hands, ability to make eye contact, situations and routines. And verbal are things like vocabulary, the grammar, whole sentences, so what we are physically saying. And as adults, we use both of these to kind of comprehend social situations, what someone is saying, and we can work out what is being said by the way they are saying it alongside the words that they are really saying. So in terms of non-verbal understanding, how we can do this with a child, you can use an example of objects needed would be a teddy and a brush. So if you said to the child, brush teddy, but you're also showing the child what to do, some may think that that child needs to understand those two words, brush and teddy. However, that the fact that the adult is showing the child what to do, so their understanding can be entirely non-verbal because they can just copy the adult. So just kind of wanted to highlight that just to show the importance to not look, point, or show the child what to do when you are seeing if they can follow that level of instruction. Obviously, unless they need help to understand. Then we go on to one keyword level instructions. So an example of the objects needed for a child at this level would be a teddy, a dolly, and a brush. And then you ask the child, brush teddy, with no non-verbal cues given. So no gestures and no showing the child what to do, just say verbally, brush teddy. And again, some may think that the child needs to understand these two words here as well. But as there's no other choice for the child but to use the brush, it is only one keyword level, which is teddy. And then we move on to two keyword level instructions. So again, example of objects you could use would be a teddy, a dolly, brush, and a sponge. And ask the child again, brush teddy. So this time you have truly tested at a two keyword level, because the adult did not use any non-verbal clues and used the correct number of target and contrast items. So there's teddy, dolly, brush, and sponge. So two nouns and two verbs there. Sponge, you could do wash. And then we'll move on to three keyword level instructions. So example of objects needed here would be a teddy, dolly, big cup, big spoon, and little spoon. An example of the instruction that you could say to the child would be, give the big cup to dolly. So you have tested at a three keyword level instruction here because the adult did not use any non-verbal clues and use the correct number of target and contrast items. So you've got teddy doll, big little, and cup and spoon. So just as a little note, you'd need two big and little items just in case they understand big but not cup. And then moving on to four keyword level instructions. So some examples of the objects needed for this level would be dolly, teddy, monkey, pig, big plate, small plate, big cup, and small cup. And you can ask your child, put monkey and dolly on the small plate. So just a recap of the reminders when doing keyword level instructions with your child. Number one, remember the need for the target objects plus the contrast objects. So as a rough guide, there should be at least double the number of objects for the number of keywords tested. So for example, 4 objects when testing 2 keyword level, and 6 objects when testing 3 keyword level. Just so you truly know the child is understanding the words that you're saying and not just using what is given in front of them. And the second thing to remember is if you're checking their understanding, remember not to look at, point to, or give any visual clues when showing the child what you want them to do. If your child is having difficulty, however, repeat the instruction and then gently guide them to the right toys. And then give the instruction again as the child copies or is shown what to do. So just a little activity to finish with. So these are just eight examples of instructions containing different levels of keywords. different amounts of keywords. So just have a little think. You can pause me here after, but just have a little think about each one of these instructions and have a little think about how many keywords are in each instruction. So you can pause me here, and then I'll go on to the answers. So the keywords are underlined here. So give the little spoon to Teddy is an example of a 3 keyword level instruction. Where's the ball is 1 keyword, as the only word needed for the child to understand is ball. Give me an apple is 1 keyword level, because if you have your hands out, so give me apple, the child gets those non-verbal clues as that you want them to give them the apple. Give Teddy a drink is an example of a 2 keyword level instruction. So just Teddy and drink. Put Dolly on the little box is 3 keyword level instruction. Put the apple and drink on the big box is 4 keyword level instruction. Make Dolly jump, 2 keywords. Give the big spoon and apple to Teddy is 4 keywords. So thank you for listening, and I hope that was helpful.